Well, hey, good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic Live. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. Excited to be with you and excited to share the news with you. Always a great day to be alive and living in America, still the best country on the face of God's green earth. And I have a special guest today. We're going to be talking about a subject that, well, it's still not out of the public conscious by any means because we have never seen anything like this before in the history of our country, and that is the raid on Mar-a-Lago. And for a long time, my guest was unable to tell all the details, not only of the raid itself, but the things that happened to her after the raid due to the legal ramifications and what she was told by attorneys and all these types of things. So I'm excited to have her on today because you are going to get to hear the full story. And my special guest today is Christina Bobb. Christina, good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Neil. I'm so happy to be back with you.
Yeah, no, enjoy talking to you, Christina. I think I'm going to bring up the cover of your book really quickly because you just
Yeah.
put this together. I got an advanced copy of this book, folks. I've been reading it. It's fantastic. It's Defiant is the title by Christina Bobb. Donald Trump did write the foreword, and and I was talking just real briefly, but I want to just address this really quickly, Christina. So for those who are maybe new to my channel, I launched this in November of 2020 after the election stuff. Okay. And what happened was there were a number of people that I streamed with at that time. And most of those people are not on YouTube anymore. And you know some of them. You know Brian Lupo and George and my friend Marcus D. Actually, that's how I met you. You had gone on a show with Marcus D.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. And what happened as a result of all the lawyers and the legal nonsense that was going on behind the scenes at YouTube and the strikes and the bans and all of that, we have now kind of scattered. We haven't even been able to pull off a band reunion. My friend Nick Moseder, I can't even hardly get a hold of him anymore. He's not doing this at all. And I thought he did just such a phenomenal job. But that's kind of, as I'm reading your book, you go back to the Oval Office. There's President Trump, and you're wondering how you're going to be received because you guys are all scattered now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what lawfare does. Is it separates allies. They they try to scare everybody into silence and not talking about things. And of course, President Trump has a phenomenal core team that's still around him. Susie Wiles is fantastic. I absolutely love her. The president himself is great. I met JD Vance for the first time through this process, and then the staff that's around President Trump. They're all core solid people. So I knew he had that solid team, but I didn't know, there'd been so much negative press about me and my role in things. I didn't know what he was going to think. I didn't know if he believed any of it or, how it was going to go. Of course, he could see through all the BS, and he was so great. It was so great to get to talk to him about this, but I was nervous about it at first because I didn't know what he believed.
Yeah, no, it's wild. Once attorneys get involved, and I know you're an attorney, Christina, but I don't have a real high view of attorneys. I just, they tend to, it's all about plausible deniability. It really doesn't deal a lot with the truth. Our legal system, I think the bar itself is really messed up. Probably an item for another show.
We could do a whole show on that.
Yeah. It's really our legal system is not what it was. But folks, do me a favor, do smash that like, do chat in with where you're from. Always love to see who's on the stream. Good to see you, Carol, Katerina. But Christina, I guess let's get right into the Mar-a-Lago raid. Okay, so you're there that day. This has never happened before, folks. I mean, it just because, and I'm reading this in your book, but Merrick Garland, like, oh, well, the use of force authorization, that's just standard operating procedure. There's nothing freaking standard about this at all.
Exactly.
Because it's never happened before.
Yeah. So, no, you're exactly right. I mean, there was nothing standard about this. It was very clear to me that it was politically motivated. It was an attempt to try to frame Donald Trump for some crime that they hadn't yet thought of, that they ultimately never thought of or never could piece together. Because one of the things that I don't think was covered well initially back in 2022 when all of this first broke was this case, the Mar-A-Lago case, was originally a Washington, D.C. case. It was never meant to be a Florida case. And for people who are going, why on earth would they try to prosecute Donald Trump in Florida? Like, that sounds like a terrible idea. There's no way they're ever going to get a conviction. Correct. It was never intended to be a Florida case. It was always intended to be a Washington, D.C. case. And I know that because I was hauled to Washington, D.C. I lived in Florida. I worked in Florida. I worked for the president, met with the president in Florida. I signed for the documents in Florida. I met with the Department of Justice and FBI in Florida. I met with the defense team in Florida. Everything I did, my entire role in all of this was in Florida. Yet the grand jury was in Washington, D.C., which was always confusing to me. Like, why are they bringing this in D.C.? This D.C. doesn't have any jurisdiction. What's the issue? And it became clear to me, or at least, sitting here today talking to you, looking back, hindsight being 2020, it's because they were trying to bring a case in Washington, D.C., and they couldn't even get enough probable cause to get an indictment of Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. That's how little evidence they had. There was no crime that warranted jurisdiction in Washington, D.C. There was no crime that warranted jurisdiction in Florida. So they had to concoct this obstruction of justice case that was never going to go anywhere because the Presidential Records Act says exactly what the president's allowed to have. And it's the president and only the president who gets to determine what he takes with him and what he keeps. Whether it's classified or not, it does not matter. It's only up to the president. So Donald Trump was in lawful possession of everything that he had. So there was no crime. So they concocted some excuse because now you have the entire world staring at the Department of Justice going, why did you raid Mar-A-Lago? Like, what crime? And they didn't have a good one. So they said, oh, well, he was obstructing our investigation. He was interfering with our investigation. And if you look at all the charges against him, they're all about interfering with DOJ's investigation, meaning if DOJ never opened an investigation, there would be no crime to allege. And I would posture that even with the open investigation, there was no crime to allege. They lied. They lied in the affidavit. They've lied to the court. They lied about his level of cooperation. I personally witnessed him talk face-to-face with the Department of Justice and the FBI, say, you can see whatever you want, being open and transparent.
That was the June 6th meeting, right?
June 2nd, I think.
June 2nd.
Or soon, June 3rd. Yeah.
June,
yeah, but
I knew it was early June. Can you just bring us back to that meeting first, Christina? So I'm reading about this in the book, and it's fascinating to me how you got involved in all of this. I just want to kind of explain that aspect of it, your role, because you're obviously an attorney. You happen to be down there
right.
in that area, and you get a call from the other attorneys. So just tell people how this all came about.
Yeah. So the defense team, I don't know when exactly they opened a grand jury investigation in Washington, D.C., but they had received a subpoena, and the defense team needed someone to serve as the custodian of records, meaning, as a witness, basically explaining to the Department of Justice what documents they had, what they were turning over, and all that. So because I was not on the defense team, they needed someone else outside the defense team to serve in that role. So I was an attorney. I was living in Florida. I was nearby. I was available. So I got tagged to do it. And I mean, the level. So just to let the viewers know, in the book, I've got the text messages, the emails, I've got the whole timeline, all the dialogue, everything that you want to know about what actually transpired. So it's all written down so you can see it and determine for yourself whether you think they actually had probable cause, whether Donald Trump and his lawyers were actually obstructing. I've heard that from leftist news saying, oh, well, the Department of Justice met with the Trump legal team and they weren't helpful and they didn't cooperate. That is not true. And there's no evidence that it was true. And even the Department of Justice, they tried to claim that, they tried to allege that, but specifically about my role, they were trying to imply that I had lied to them. They implied that I had been untruthful, but I wasn't, and they know I wasn't, and that's why they never charged me with a crime, because they wanted to be able to argue it in court in these pleadings without me being a party to the case saying, that's not true, and it's not true. So I believe that's why I didn't get indicted, was because I had kept really tight records of everything that transpired, both my cell phones, my email, and just notes to my attorneys of what went down. And when we turned it all over, I think they looked at it and go, okay, well, she kept good records. We're not going to indict her because she'll be able to prove what we're doing is wrong. Yeah. So that's what the book is. The book is basically my summary of everything that went down. So you can see it exactly as it happened. And Neil, now that you've read a large chunk of it, I hope you would agree that the story as it actually unfolded is not what the media said. The media made it look very different.
Not at all. No, there's so many things. Number one, your involvement, and you did have those text records. And what was really telling was reading when you actually went to your meeting with the DOJ lawyers. And,
yep.
So that part, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
There's so much. You're like, how can it be this different from what we saw? But it is.
Well, furthermore, what I found so interesting was that early June meeting, President Trump shows up at it. Mm-hmm. He just comes up, says hi, and whatever you need.
Yeah, he was very friendly. It was like welcoming someone into their home, and he said, anything you need. And he, tells the defense attorney, make sure they have whatever they need. And they didn't have everything they wanted. They got.
And then their cases nothing didn't give us what we needed.
Yeah.
What I found so interesting, and folks, the book again is Defiant. Author, of course, is Christina Bobb. When does this? I think we're pre-release right now, Christina.
It's pre-release, but it comes out on Tuesday. So if you order it today, you'll have it on Tuesday.
Okay, and where do they go to order it?
You can order it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold.
Okay, so folks, go get the book because this is like good reading. The story's told well. Just the pace of it and how it's put together. I just was devouring the book, but so Trump tells him you can have whatever you want. Mm-hmm. He comes up there and he meets with them, and then all of a sudden, was it August? Right, I think it was
August 8th was the day of the raid. Yeah,
you get a call.
Yes. Yeah, and I didn't believe it. I was like, there's no way they're raiding Mar-A-Lago. Like, okay, maybe they showed up and, maybe they have follow-up questions. Yeah. I was like, I thought it was going to be the same team of agents that met with us in June. And so I was like, okay, do I have to go like right away?
Yeah, you were at the
down
DMV,
there.
Right?
I was at the DMV, yeah. I was like, I've already got expired tags. Like, this is going to take forever. So, I did not believe for a second. There's no way they're raiding Mar-A-Lago. That's crazy. You'd have to be absolutely insane to raid Mar-A-Lago.
Yeah.
Well, they were raiding Mar-A-Lago. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you get this call. You're like, well, this can't really be happening. It's not like a big raid. Some people, we just need to go answer some questions.
Yeah.
You even asked the attorney, can I just finish up here at the DMV? Because you're thinking this isn't like that. This certainly isn't that. And then his response was like, you're going, I think I just need to get there. So you go down there.
Yeah.
And Secret Service is at the gate. You have to get inside Mar-A-Lago. Okay, so you get in there and you go to the entrance where you think you'll find these people, and no one's there.
Yeah, they were on the other side. So when I pulled up, I was like, "There's not even anybody here. Like, what's the big deal? This is who do I need to call?" And then I drove around to the other side, and that's what it was like, a movie scene with the Ryder trucks and the SUVs and all the agents. And I was just flabbergasted. I was like, there's no way this is actually happening. And it was, and they were arrogant and rude, and they treated Mar-A-Lago as if, the only way I can think to describe it, and I've had several people ask me, like, why do you think they were carrying themselves the way that they were carrying themselves? I think it was a level of arrogance that was like, we can do whatever we want. It wasn't just I'm better than you. It was I'm more powerful than you. And It was, honestly, it was astonishing. It was absolutely astonishing. There were a couple agents that were easier for me to talk to than others. And I was there for 8, 10 hours. I don't even know how long it was. It was a long time. But I've got the whole timeline in there. Everything's laid out. You see play by play, blow by blow of everything that happened. But for them, it did kind of become business as usual as the day drug on. I was angry the whole day. But they did offer me, you can sit in the car where there's air conditioning, because they wouldn't let me inside. They wouldn't let me see what they were doing. I had to stay out on the Circle Drive, and they were in different parts of Mar-A-Lago. So I could see what they were doing between the areas, but I couldn't see what they were doing in the actual rooms. So, yeah, it's just wild. And the thing that is so interesting to me now we've got John Bolton's raid, right? And we have, the tables are turning. President Trump is investigating legitimate crimes that transpired.
Yeah.
The thing that stands out to me about the Bolton raid is Kash Patel came out the morning of the raid and said no one is above the law. He took ownership of it right away. The FBI came out and made a statement and said, we've got a search warrant. We've done all the necessary paperwork. We're executing that search warrant at John Bolton's house now as we speak. They took ownership of it. Excuse me. They took ownership of it. That is not what happened with the raid on Mar-A-Lago. Nobody said anything. Everybody kept it quiet. It wasn't until Donald Trump put a statement out after the raid was over that anybody even knew the raid had occurred. And so, and then there was a lot of confusion about, was the raid over? Was it not over? You know, people thought that it occurred in the middle of the night. It didn't. It was all throughout the day, but the FBI never said anything. Yeah. And Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray never said anything. And then, if you remember, it took 3 days of the Biden administration. 3 days of the Biden administration going, oh, we have no idea. How on earth did Mar-A-Lago get raided? Those pesky rogue FBI agents, you know, they were playing stupid. And then it wasn't until August 11th that Merrick Garland sheepishly came out and said, yeah, you know, I authorized the raid. And it was so bad that they clearly thought they were never going to be held accountable. They thought, in my opinion, they thought that they could do this and get away with it without anybody knowing, until they wanted to put out, like, they thought they were going to control the narrative, and they didn't. And I think the reason they didn't put anything out was because they knew they didn't have actual probable cause. They didn't have the ability to say, this is why we raided Mar-A-Lago, this is what we're after, because they went to a judge who was conflicted out. Bruce Reinhart was the judge just weeks prior who had recused himself from the Trump-Clinton case because he said he couldn't be impartial. And so they didn't have a legitimate, I mean, they had on paper, it was a legitimate warrant, but they knew they didn't have legitimate probable cause. They lied in their affidavit, and then they went to a conflicted judge to actually get the warrant. They did not have good probable cause to stand on, which is why they were hiding for 3 days. That is not the case with the John Bolton raid. You've got the FBI out front saying, we know we've got something, we're onto something here, we're doing an investigation, and we're executing a warrant as we speak. So to me, that's very encouraging about the difference between what we see Kash Patel doing versus what Christopher Wray did. Is I think some of these leaders should be concerned. You know, if they thought they were going to get away with stuff, I don't know that they will.
Well, you know what's interesting about this, Christina? You bring up a couple great points there, and I do have some information on the judge. And what's interesting about this to me is that he's a magistrate judge. So this is, you know, just a simple magistrate judge issuing this order.
Massive warrant, right?
Like, this is crazy. You know, and then for the Biden administration to basically claim no knowledge. Like, oh, they're just independent. They're just acting on their own. Like, what FBI agent just thinks it's on their own?
Right.
And when they come in with that attitude that they came in, and this is where, folks, just understand the deep state is real. Okay, these are unelected bureaucrats. They've been in those positions. They're entrenched in power. They're drunk on power. To do something like this obviously proves just how drunk on power they are, especially with a case that was this flimsy. This is it reminds me of the Jack Smith case, when Jack Smith could not even bring, this is all related to January 6th. And there was a really good line in your book where the attorney talked to you and said, now remember, Christina, just down the street here, there are people rotting in jail from January 6th. Do you understand how badly they hate your boss? So it's not even a secret amongst the legal profession just how corrupt this DOJ was, and how much they actually had this animus towards President Trump and anybody in his administration.
Yeah.
All of it's so telling. But here's just out of this is from, you know, way back in August of 2022, the federal magistrate judge who signed off on a warrant that allowed federal agents to search Trump's Florida residence once drew scrutiny for switching his job as a federal prosecutor to working as a defense attorney on behalf of individuals connected to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. So this is an Epstein defense attorney. If you want to know where he came from, how he was appointed. Okay, so he used to work for Norma Levy Shapiro, who was appointed by Jimmy Carter, another swell guy who really did great things for America. You have behind you there, I want to just point this out, your mugshot, because this isn't the only case where you have been sought in. Okay, this is here you are. This is dealing with the Arizona case, and I want to talk with you briefly about that too, because I think that's important. I do need to mention my sponsor really quickly, folks. It's mypillow.com/lumberjack, or call the 800 number for big savings on the best sleep products available. There's great deals going on. Free shipping right now, 1-800-568-2865. Go over there and support Mike Lindell and the great work he does. Great deals on sheets.
I love Mike Lindell.
Isn't he great? I mean,
he's so great.
How can somebody not like Mike Lindell?
No, he's wonderful. And I ran into him in Las Vegas at a Gateway Pundit event recently. And he is probably, this is the first time I've ever thought this about a person, is I've never had an encounter with him where I don't leave it happier and more joyful than when I first encountered him. He's just such a kind, good person that you can't help but, become more joyful when you're around him.
Yeah. I mean, he just doesn't even like, I get to spend time with him at the RNC, and I was working with Mike there, and we would go around and he would interact with all these people from CNN and whatever. He's just kind to them all, even though they were writing all these nasty things about him.
He's so great. He's so great. I mean, he is the epitome of the joy of the Lord is your strength. I mean, he's just always joyful.
All right. I want to bring this in. We'll go back to Mar-A-Lago, but I do want to bring this in, Christina, because this is now, obviously, I was heavily involved in the Arizona audit, in pressing for that, raising money for that, all of it. That was that's one of the things that got me in trouble with YouTube. Okay, but you were actually facing with this. Okay, Christina Bobb, former lawyer to Donald Trump, said she could spend the rest of her life in prison following a recent indictment in Arizona. Now, this is Attorney General Chris Mays. Very shady election there. I could go on about that. I mean, we're talking hundreds of votes. There's a whole story behind that. I'm not going to get into it. I don't believe she won that race.
That's actually in the book. I don't think you've gotten to that part yet. And it's in Defiant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read that part specifically.
It's at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So I've gotten to, I think I'm in chapter 17.
Okay. You've made good progress in a short time. It wasn't that long ago we gave the book to you, so thank you.
Yeah, no, well, it's enjoyable. I'm telling you, Christina, people need to read your book.
Thanks. I love it. I think it's a great read. I hope people love it. It happens to be the truth.
Yes, and well, you've got it all documented, which is great. So, but 18 people have been charged with felony offenses, including fraud, forgery, and conspiracy in connection with a scheme to falsely declare that Trump had beaten Joe Biden in 2020. Trump has not been charged in the Arizona fake elector scheme, but is listed as unindicted conspirator 1 throughout the indictment. Goes on about other Trump allies. So you're literally looking at this thinking, okay, as corrupt as the system has been, you saw the raid on Mar-A-Lago. You are legitimately facing the possibility of the rest of your life in prison. Now, most of us don't face that in our lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank God, right? I mean, hopefully that's why Donald Trump's doing what he's doing, is so that most people don't face that.
How does that hit?
Oh my gosh, it's awful. It's awful. I mean, the idea that your government, and it's not even my government. I used to live in Arizona, but I don't live in Arizona anymore. I was never in Arizona. I mean, I had nothing to do with the alternate electors. Now, to be clear, I don't think the alternate electors committed a crime either. There was no crime, but notwithstanding, I still had nothing to do with it. But no, it's terrifying. Thankfully, the indictment has been thrown out. The case is not closed. Chris Mays is still coming after us. She's still trying to figure out ways to throw us in prison to salvage this case. But the judge ruled that she violated our constitutional rights when she got the indictment because she didn't properly instruct on the law. There were a whole bunch of other issues about how she, not only did she not properly instruct on the law, she lied. Her people, her investigators and her prosecutors straight up lied to the grand jury. They knew what they were saying to the grand jury wasn't true. Or at least they should have known, because they didn't have any evidence to support it. So at the very least, they should have known what they were saying wasn't true. But they're still coming after us. Like I said, the indictment's been thrown out, so it's not as looming as it was before. But I mean, it's a horrible, horrible feeling.
Yeah, I mean,
It's terrifying. I mean,
I
it would destroy everything. Everything I've worked for in my life, everything I would want to do with my future, gone.
so I never had one of the pre-dawn raids, at my house,
Yeah,
but
thank
I
God.
was at January 6th, and I
Mhm.
saw other people getting pre-dawn raids. It was always sitting in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
So I didn't face the same level you did, but even just that is disconcerting. I mean, it
yeah,
didn't matter. I mean, they could be praying outside an abortion clinic, and under Joe Biden, I saw the video of a dad with 7 agents pointing guns at his head while his kids and wife looked on and his kids were crying.
yeah.
This is the kind of tyranny that I imagine if Kamala had won the election. Are you
Oh, no,
kidding
it's
me?
terrifying. And the thing that people need to appreciate, I do get into this later in the book, is they're still doing it at the state and local level. People forget about Fannie Willis.
Yes,
That case is still open. Yes, she's a disaster, a train wreck, it's falling apart, but she's still trying to move forward. Chris Mays, same thing, still trying to move forward. Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, they're all still prosecuting Trump supporters without probable cause. I mean, Matt DePerno was indicted, I want to say in August of 2023. So over 2 years ago at this point. They did not use a grand jury. It was one of those, the process where they go before a judge for a preliminary hearing, and they still haven't had the hearing. So he's been under indictment for 2 years with zero finding of probable cause. So what they're doing to really good Americans who just disagree with them, it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal what they're doing.
it is. I'm gonna refer to something in the book. I want to read this. This is in your meeting with the FBI,
Hmm.
and they kept trying to box you in, and I think it's interesting to see how they do this. So the agents goes on to say, but you agree the FBI was not allowed to search through the boxes to find out for themselves on June 3rd, asked the lead agent. Ugh, this again. I would not say that. I'm of the opinion that you could have searched whatever you wanted if you had arranged to do that with Evan. Evan didn't want to take the time to do it that day, but you could have insisted. President Trump was adamant that you had the ability to see whatever you wanted. I don't know what more we could have done to let you know you had access to whatever you wanted. I mean, the president of the United States literally came to tell you himself, what more do you need? I was starting to get defensive the more they pushed me. They suggested that when Evan said, let me know if you need anything else, was merely a pleasantry. And he didn't mean it. I insisted they were wrong. He meant it. We all meant it. All they had to do was ask, but they never did. They went straight to raiding Mar-a-Lago. And why are you so sure that President Trump meant it? The lead attorney asked again. Because I know him and he said it. He wasn't kidding, bluffing, or whatever. When he said you had access to whatever you wanted, he meant it. I wonder, Christina, if the reason they're having so much trouble believing this is because they don't believe or mean anything they say.
Yeah. They think everything is a lie. I mean, everybody's just lying all the time, right? And so we're going to prove that your lies are worse than our lies. The problem is we weren't lying. President Trump wasn't lying. None of us were lying. And we could stand firmly on everything we said. And they were having a very, very hard time. I don't know if they were having a hard time believing it or if they were just disappointed that we were sticking to the truth. I don't know. But
They were
they were
frustrated.
really struggling. They were really struggling to believe it.
It's just great. The dialogue, Christina, everything that you've recorded in here is so good. Again, folks, the book Defiant by Christina Bobb, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing War Lawfare. It's not only the Mar-a-Lago raid itself. I mean, she goes on to describe the other lawfare, as we just talked about, the Arizona electors case, others, so many people
Yeah.
associated with Trump that are still dealing with lawfare to this day.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, they destroyed innocent Americans' lives. I mean, I've got a section on there. I also got sucked into the Jack Smith investigation on January 6th. So I've got a couple chapters on January 6th issues in there. I was hauled before Congress to testify. I had my bar license challenged. I was subpoenaed, I want to say, I don't know, somewhere between 4 and 7 times on civil suits. I was sued by Dominion for $1.6 billion. I mean, the amount of attacks that came my way simply because I supported Donald Trump was astonishing. And it has to end, because if it doesn't end, America, we can't, as a nation, we can't sustain this. It's
No.
not sustainable. And so we've got to end it. And I'm really grateful that President Trump is working towards ending it.
Well, that was the one thing I didn't finish. I'll never forget the day that I learned the news. I just happened to catch it right as it broke. But when Jack Smith, because Jack Smith, seemed to be at the center of all of this, and there's so many unanswered questions about him as I looked into him before. But going back to the January 6th, what was it they wanted to charge President Trump with? What was the actual term? Uh, Not treason. What is it? Like he's trying to overturn the government. The well,
Oh, I don't remember. Are
yeah,
you talking about insurrection?
thank you. That's the one.
Oh, I was like, are
Yes,
you? They were trying to charge him. They charged nobody with
nobody.
insurrection. Nobody.
And I remember the day Jack Smith had to drop that.
Yeah.
Not even Jack Smith. He even knew he couldn't get an insurrection conviction. So then
Not against Donald Trump, not against anybody associated with him, not against any of the J6ers. And so every time you see on the news them going, oh, the insurrectionists, that is a lie. That is the media lying to you. Legally, there was no insurrection, at least not on the part of Donald Trump and his supporters. And nobody was ever even charged with it. And so they're like, oh, we have all these convicted insurrectionists. No, you don't. No, you don't. You have people who trespassed. Who were charged, and arguably, I don't even think they were trespassing because they were let in by the police. They were led to believe they were lawfully allowed to be there. So it's not trespassing. But
they could not even he couldn't even pursue that conviction because he knew he couldn't get it. And but yet, Christina, to your point, at the state level, this is still going on.
Yeah.
I remember my friend Marcus told me one time, he said, Neil, conservatives fight till they win, or no, conservatives fight till they lose and liberals fight till they win. And there was some truth in that, I believe, before the Donald Trump era. I don't see that anymore. I think conservatives have developed a lot more backbone.
Yeah, definitely. Well, conservative Americans typically don't like politics. They don't like government. They don't want to be involved. They want the government to go away and leave them alone. But the former Republican Party was so bad, didn't fight, kowtowed to Democrats on everything, that regular, everyday conservative Americans couldn't sit by anymore and let it just crumble. So you've got people like yourself who started a media channel after the election, who, I don't know if you thought about it before or not, but whatever it was, you finally said, I've got to get involved and do something. And the same thing is true for, parents running for school boards and people running for Congress or state house or state Senate. We saw a lot of people who never had any interest in government going, okay, well, I've got to do something because the Republicans are incompetent. They're not doing anything. And they're allowing the Democrats to destroy this nation. And so we've had this kind of resurgence on the conservative side, step up and fill in where the prior Republican Party really had done a huge disservice.
Yes, it really let us down. Well, I know you have another thing coming up, Christina. I don't want to keep you any longer than I had to. But again, folks, the book is Defiant. Author Christina Bobb. It's inside the MAR-A-LAGO raid and the left's ongoing lawfare. It is a great read. It's not only interesting facts, but the book just reads well. The pacing of it's good. You'll find yourself just rolling right on through it. And it tells a very compelling story, Christina. So
thank you.
I want to thank you for your service to our country. You are a Marine, as well as serving in the capacity as in the administration, in Department of Homeland Security, then as a lawyer in the Trump was it Save America Pact? I'm trying to get all of the things right. But now you're with, and I guess I'm going to let you have the outro here. Tell us what you're up to now and where folks can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at Judicial Watch now. I work with Tom Fitton, and that's an amazing crew. It's basically a litigation team that focuses on exposing government corruption. So I'm thrilled to be there. And you can find me on social media at Christina_Bobb or on Truth at Christina Bobb. I've got a website, ChristinaBobb.com, and Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Please pre-order the book. I hope you love it. I hope you feel like you have a better understanding of what actually happened. And I hope it's a fun read.
Yeah. Well, I certainly have a better understanding of what happened. Again, Christina, thanks for coming on. Folks, remember to subscribe if you're new. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.
Thanks, Neil.
Oh, thank you.